This is the first of the 10,000 books that we had printed that came off the press. And I immediately took it down to the basketball office, and Press was there, and Pete was there, and Jay McCrary was there, and Greg Bernbrock, the freshman coach, was there. Of course, Jay was the assistant coach. And I was very, very proud of the fact that the four of them signed this first copy of the book. Press Maravich, of course, was Pete's dad, and Press was a former professional basketball player. And the first time I ever saw Press Maravich, I was still working at The Advocate as a sports writer. He was talking about what he was going to do at LSU, which is basically he came to win. Same thing a lot of coaches all say when they first take a job. But the last thing I remember him saying, and he had this little stogie cigar he'd always kind of puff on. He took it out. He said, "But let me tell you something. Wait till you see my kid play basketball." We had no clue what he was talking about. So when Pete got to his first freshman game, I think they were playing Southeastern Louisiana. Well, he hung 50 on them from the scoring standpoint. But they saw something that they only saw when the Harlem Globetrotters came to town. When Pete went down the court, it was nothing for him to throw the ball behind his back, to go between his legs, or dribble it in such a way that, how did he do that? This was the first game, 50, if I'm right. And all of a sudden, there was a lot of people that wanted to see Press's kid play basketball. Well, of course, the next year when he became a sophomore, everybody wanted to come out and see, well, he did it against a bunch of freshmen. What's he going to do when he steps up and plays against really good competition? Well, what he did in his really good competition, his first year that he played as a sophomore, is he completely took the SEC by storm. All of a sudden, all of these empty seats that you used to see at basketball arenas around the SEC, because this is really a football conference, all of these empty seats all of a sudden had warm bodies in them. And they weren't coming to see a sophomore play basketball. They were coming to see Pete Maravich. Well, it turns out a good friend of mine named Steve Ellis was the manager of one of the City National banks. He was also the general manager of an independent basketball team. Steve was as big a nut as I was about Pete. We were fans. I worked at the newspaper, but I was a fan. And we decided that we were going to write a book about Pistol Pete Maravich. We did it at the end of his junior year. We called Press and asked Press for permission to talk to Pete. And Pete got on there. He said, "Sure, we'll do it." So we had Pete to ourselves for 3 days. And we got to interview him just one-on-one. The interview, I think, is a highlight of the book. And we had 10,000 copies of our book. We charged $1. Over the years, it kind of struck me that Pete Maravich might be the most influential basketball player to ever play the game. Because nowadays, you see kids 5 and 6 years old who dribble the ball behind their back, who go between their legs. They don't know the reason why. But until Pete made it popular, they just didn't do that. I think Pete Maravich was the main actor in a script that was prepared by God. Now, here's a guy that's going to wind up in the NBA Hall of Fame. He's going to be named one of the 50 great basketball players in the NBA of all time. He did that as a pro, but his reputation was made at LSU. But as a pro, when he's making all this money, when all these things are going on, he's having some tough things happen in his life, some of which was self-induced. Be that as it may, Pete found God, he found Christ, And he put all this stuff behind him. Think about how do you end a story about the guy I think is the most influential basketball player ever. I think he was that so that he could influence folks not to play basketball, but to consider giving their lives to Christ. And Pete Maravich went out in line with that and went to California. And in a pickup basketball game, couldn't be any other way, just a pickup basketball game, Pete Maravich died in a church gym. And I truly believe that this was a plan because they found out afterwards that what took Pistol Pete's life was a heart problem, where basically he had only half of a heart. And most doctors said that he shouldn't have lived much past 20 years old, if that much. And yet Pistol Pete, with this heart, went through a rigorous high school, college, and professional basketball career, playing at a level that put him in the Hall of Fame for both college and the pros, with half a heart. And I think that that was just part of the plan, because even now, people remember who Pistol Pete was.